in Matthew 25, he taught us to come alongside the least of these. And the least of these, in case you forgot who they are, it says, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger, invite you in, needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will say, truly, I said, whatever you did to the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. An invitation to walk with Jesus is right here. How do you walk with him? You walk with the least of these. So what do we do as Parallel Church? We come alongside the least of these. Did you know that from October 1 last year, 2022, to this year, we've helped 53,866 individuals just through My City Care? Isn't that awesome? In 56 different communities, not just the 5 communities we're in 56 different communities. And that means in the last 2 years, we've helped over 88,000 individuals. Come on. For love and impact. Come on. Jesus also taught us not just to walk with the least of these, he also taught us to walk with the one another's. He said this in John 13:34. New command I give you, not a new suggestion, a new command. I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And Jesus, this is like love others. Okay. No, Jesus upped the ante a whole lot and said, no, love like I love. Which the way Jesus loved, come on. Nobody in that day and age had ever seen anyone like him. And no one in today's day and age would see anyone like Jesus. Because in that day and age, it was a society of separated ones. The Jews wouldn't associate with the Gentiles. The Jews wouldn't even associate with the Samaritans, which were half Jews. They wouldn't cross one pollinate. The Pharisees, the Sadducees wouldn't get along with one another, and they certainly wouldn't hang out with sinners. And sinners would never hang out with tax collectors, because we had to list them as separate. Right? They're so bad, they're tax collectors. They were separate than sinners. Like, that's how bad they were. And yet Jesus, like if you were leprous or you got leprosy and sickness, not the fault of you're kicked out of the city. You couldn't be there. And yet Jesus went to every one of those groups. Jesus went to the lepers colony and healed the sick. And they're like, you can't go there. They're unclean. And yet he touched them, which is one of the biggest things. He didn't just minister to their physical ailment. He ministered to their soul at the same time. He called a tax collector to be one of his closest followers. He invited himself to Zacchaeus' the tax collector's house for a meal, basically esteeming Zacchaeus in front of a massive crowd and saying, I'm not only associating with you, I'm hanging out with you, which would be a stain on Jesus' reputation, but he didn't care about his reputation. He invited a prostitute to minister to him by pouring perfume on his feet. And the disciples were like, you can't be associated with her. You're a rabbi. It's going to be a stain on your reputation. And Jesus is like, no. He called terrorists, which were the zealots, to be part of his inner circle. He hung out with a Samaritan woman. A Jewish man would never communicate, even talk with a Samaritan, never mind a Samaritan woman. Jesus broke all the rules. So when he invites us to love one another, listen, don't we live in a society, come on, that likes to separate? Red and blue. And orange. Come on. We like to separate one another. We like to do all this kind of, and yet Jesus is saying, hey, there's not us and them. Love like I loved. Different, love different. So we have a vision to come alongside the one another's.